Well, America is talking about what it means to get healthy again. Thanks to RFK Jr., the entire country is abuzz about the MAHA movement, Make America Healthy Again. We're going to talk about that today, a little bit about the movement, what it means for you, and what you can do to help start making your family healthy right away. My guest today is my friend, Melissa Crabtree. We are going to have a hoot and holler and good time talking about something we both care very much about. This is the Heidi St. John Podcast. Stick around. I think you're going to be encouraged. Well, welcome to the show, Melissa. Hey. Hey, girl. Hey.
How are you?
You know what? I'm good. I'm really looking forward to having the studio up so that when you're on a podcast with me, you can actually be in the room and not next door to me.
No,
so
soon.
Looking forward.
It's coming.
I know, we're so close. We're so close. So you and I have talked about really a shared passion that we have for health, and this is something that you've been passionate about since as long as I have known you. And the fact that this topic has risen to the national consciousness now, thanks to Donald Trump really embracing RFK Jr. I don't know if I'm sure you are, but watching the news and the mainstream media just losing their minds over this. They just cannot believe that Donald Trump would bring, a health heretic like RFK to the foreground. How do you think we got here? How do you think we ended up with the MAHA movement?
Well, I mean, I think a whole lot of people, I hear people say, that they think this is new. This isn't really new. It's just, homeschool moms have been crunchy moms for a really long time. And I think
we're like
what's
the original
happening
crunchy
is,
mom.
Yes. And I think what's happening, we know that the three-letter agencies, the lobbyists, the congressmen, and the private medical companies and that fund the medical schools, they're all in bed together. And they're all making a whole lot of money for each other. And so I think the reason they're losing their minds is they stand to lose a fair amount of money.
Yeah.
And but the best part is that families, we can start taking care of our families as RFK is shining a light on how sick our country is. But a lot of people, a lot of the people we're hanging around, we know how sick our country is, you know. But I'm so excited for it to be mainstream. And for people to start just learning different ways they can help each other. And then it's not actually those of us who are the crunchy ones who are crazy.
Right. Yeah. Right. Exactly. So who's gaslighting who now? Right. This is the question. This is kind of fun. I was in Orlando just a couple of days ago to moderate the National Bible Bee, and part of the moderating process is we're just shooting the breeze while the judges are coming up with scores, and we're trying to think of things to talk about on the fly. And at some point I said, how many of you guys are excited to see RF? Now this is mostly homeschoolers, right? There's 1,500 people in a room, but they're mostly homeschooling families, mostly very, very, very conservative families. And I said, how many of you guys are excited for RFK Jr. to make America healthy again, get the yellow dye out of your food and start getting all the poisons out of our food? To which the audience erupted in applause. And I got a text message, 4 or 5 days later, from a reporter from the New York Times who happened to be in the audience at the time. And she said, I just had no idea that when you mentioned RFK Jr.'s name in front of a whole bunch of homeschoolers, you'd get applause. And I replied back to her and basically said what you just said, which is, the homeschool movement's kind of the first crunchy movement. Like, we're the ones who were like, oh, hey, yeah, the education system's broken. We're the ones who are like, we're going to start grinding our own wheat into flour because we recognize you guys are putting Roundup on our wheat. Yep. And so we've kind of been in this fight for a really long time, and RFK is just really giving it more energy and a new shot in the arm.
Yeah. And I think, too, we're used to going against the grain. I mean, we're homeschoolers. We don't take the free education they're offering.
You're like that. You're like that. We're homeschoolers. Of course, we're going against the grain.
Right. So now we're just going to have a whole lot more friends to join us. So I think it's really exciting, mostly because at the end of the day, it's people who are going to be healthier. Yeah. I mean, that's the bottom line, is the corruption. The light is going to be shown in the corruption. And for my black and white personality that wants justice, I mean, all the way through we have been lied to for someone's financial gain, and it makes me so angry. Yeah. And I'm so thankful that a light is being shown, and I don't care if it's a Democrat or Republican doing it. I'm glad someone is shining a light on it, because at the end of the day, we're going to have healthier families. And the healthier we are, the more we can do for the Lord. And that is an exciting thing to me.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. You introduced me to Callie and Casey Means, who, as it turns out, are our neighbors here in the Pacific Northwest. We just figured that out. Yeah, that's fun. So amazing. But they were just on the Tucker Carlson show, and you opened up today by talking about how sick the country is. Let's watch this clip. You guys listen to these statistics about exactly where we are as Americans in our country in 2024.
What can you just give us the baseline condition of health in the United States?
Absolutely. So the word I used earlier, destroyed, is not hyperbolic in any way, shape, or form. 74% of American adults now are overweight or obese. Close to 50% of children are overweight or obese. 120 years ago, when someone was obese, there were case reports written about it. Yes. Literally, there were people in the circus if you had obesity.
Sideshow fat. Yeah, it was so unusual.
It was so unusual. It is now 74% of our country. 77% of young adults are unfit to serve in the military because of these issues like obesity. Now let's talk about diabetes. 50%, a full 50% of American adults have prediabetes or type 2 diabetes, which is a fundamental issue in how
half the
country, Tucker, have prediabetes or type 2 diabetes, and 30% of teens now have prediabetes. This was a condition that no pediatrician would have seen in their lifetime 50 years ago. 1% of Americans in 1950 had type 2 diabetes. We have 18% of teens with fatty liver disease, a disease that used to be in late stage alcoholics. Cancer rates are skyrocketing in the young and the elderly. Young adult cancers are up 79%. And this is the first year in American history we're estimated to have over 2 million cases of cancer. 25% of American women are on an antidepressant medication. 40% of 18-year-olds have a mental health diagnosis. We have the highest infant and maternal mortality rate in the entire developed world, despite spending 2x on infant and maternal care than any other country. So you have a higher risk of dying as a woman giving birth in America than any other developed country in the world. Autism rates in kids are 1 in 36 nationally. This was 1 in 1,500 in the year 2000, and the screening has not changed in California, where I live.
I just want to linger on that. And the screening has not changed. So
in 20 years,
the definition hasn't changed.
No, 1 in 32 from 1 in 1,500. In California, 1 in 36. Right now, it was 1 in 1,500. In California, it's 1 in 22. One of the worst states in the country for autism. So this is just a smattering.
What the hell is that?
And all of these conditions. I mean, and I could go on and on. Autoimmune diseases, infertility is at peak rates. I mean, I don't know how this is not front page news. Infertility is going up 1% per year. Sperm counts are going down 1% per year.
So, Melissa, those numbers, that is nothing to sneeze at. The fact that autism rates have skyrocketed in the United States, type 2 diabetes, obesity, every single one of us can name somebody who is morbidly obese. And when you look back at pictures of our country, in the 1940s, the 1950s, the 1960s, you were hard pressed to find somebody who was overweight in a picture in Life magazine. And now it's everywhere.
Yeah, and now people are normalizing it, and I don't believe that we need to shame people who are fat. I know you think the same thing. That's not what we're looking for. The problem is we're lying to people to tell them, oh, as long as you feel good about this, then it's fine. It's not. You're super unhealthy. Let's help you fix that.
You're putting a strain on your heart, putting a strain on your blood vessels. And eventually you're going to die early. And that is the bottom line. And I love what you said earlier, because it's so true. We can't do everything that God's asked us to do when we don't feel good. And I think so much of where we're at right now as a country with this sort of sedentary lifestyle, I love that RFK is really promoting how important it is to exercise, get up and move in the morning. And he's not only talking about it, he's actually doing it, which I think is 99% of it right there. He's not just a talking head. He's someone who actually believes what he's saying to the point where he's doing it himself.
Well, and he's been living this life for 20 years. You know, he's lost friends for how passionately he believes about these things. Literally, now he's lost family members.
He was the first one that came out and exposed Fauci, the high priest of the Branch Covidians, right? He was the one who said, look at this guy's track record. He has a track record of literally injuring people through his hubris. And look what we've just lived through for the past 4 years. It's crazy.
Yeah, it is.
So you've been in sort of alternatives to Western mainstream medicine for a really long time. I mean, you and I have been kicking around together for, well, goodness, it's going to be coming up for too long on 15 years. And you were the one who introduced me to essential oils. And at first I was like, I don't know about that. I don't know about that. Seemed like a little hocus pocus. But I grew up, my mom worked for Kaiser Permanente. She was, and is, she was a very, very gifted nurse. She worked in pediatric oncology for a long, long time. So I grew up walking the child's cancer ward in downtown Portland with my mom and visiting kids who were very, very ill. And we never, ever, ever thought outside of the mainstream medical box. And I think that's 90% of Americans right now. What made you look somewhere besides mainstream medicine and a box of Sudafed and some Pepto-Bismol at Walgreens? What got you interested in seeing, I wonder if there's another way?
Well, really, the first thing was that Jacob, our first child, had his first ear infection at 2 weeks, and his first wheezing at 6 weeks. And by September, which he would have been 4 or 5 months old, I was saying every time I eat corn, he's wheezing. I was nursing him. And he had 5 rounds of antibiotics by that point. And finally, I took dairy out of my diet as a nursing mom. Lo and behold, the kid's ear infections cleared up. And his doctor, his pediatrician, super caring, kind lady. We loved her. She said, no, he's too young. It can't be food allergies. Well, I was already seeing as a first-time young mom, except every time I eat this food, he projectile vomits.
Right.
Every time I have this food, he's wheezing 4 hours later just after I nursed him. So I started learning by 8 months old. Jacob was 8 months old at that point, and I finally went in and I was like, this kid has food allergies. It doesn't matter to me if you believe that he does, he does. So now I'm going to go get him tested, and I'm either going to pay cash for it or you're going to give me approval for insurance for it. But I need to know what else this kid is allergic to. Sure enough, every single thing he tested positive. He tested positive for 9 foods on that first test. Yes, he had only ever had them through my breast milk. So that was my first experience with maybe they don't know everything. And again, she was a kind, caring pediatrician. We loved her. But the best part is she was willing to learn from us. And she learned, she changed her tune. She actually got to where she would send moms to me to figure out how you figure out what your kids are allergic to when you're nursing them.
Well, I mean, to be fair, you're still doing that. Everybody sends their kids to, Melissa.
Well, so that was my first experience of, they're actually not going to have all the answers, and I'm going to have to do some investigation myself. And then food allergies, which turns out Jacob and I both had, that just walked me into this road of, you can't actually, when you're trying to avoid corn and dairy and a bunch of other things, you can't get mainstream medicine because it all has that stuff in it. So then when you're compounding, and then it was just the beginning of this long research that, as frustrating as those allergies caused our life to be in some ways, I am so thankful for them because the Lord pushed me into this spot where I had to learn all of these things. And my whole family is much healthier for it. So that was the beginning of my learning that there is a better way. There's a root cause. It's not just that God made my kid to need antibiotics for the rest of his life because of ear infections.
Right.
And it also makes sense why I had ear infections until I was 12 years old, because I had food allergies. So stuff that we didn't know back then. So that was when I really started. And then on that journey in avoiding mainstream medicines, some of those foods are in lotions. So even topical stuff you're using, Febreze is full of corn, so there's no air freshener. So I just learned how many of the things in our environment were making us sick. And as we took all those things out, I just got more and more testimonials, and I had to find alternative methods. We still got a runny nose, so I had to figure out, besides Sudafed and besides Dimetap and all those things, what else could I do to help my kids' runny nose or their cough or their skin rash because I couldn't run for those medicines because they all had, because corn is kind of everywhere. So it forced me into this learning experience and this learning journey that then I got really passionate about because I was like, this works so much better. So it's really been a fun journey because I love to learn new things. It's just a benefit on the side, how much I've learned that's been able to help us and help other people.
I think there's a lot of people where, coming to where you were 15, 20, 25 years ago, they're coming there now, right? We're just getting there now. I want to play an ad that came out from RFK Jr. when he was helping President Trump run for office, where he has I hope people are watching this on YouTube, because he has an entire counter full of foods that we are all eating. We've all eaten them, Fruit Loops, Doritos, you name it. And he really highlights one particular food dye. And I want you guys to listen to this. So take a listen and we'll come back and talk about it.
Including a harmful yellow dye called tetrazine, or yellow dye number 5. What you may not know is that this dye was originally made out of the sludge that's left over when you turn coal into coke for blast furnaces. It's called coal tar, and I've actually sued many big industries for legacy contamination of coal tar all around the country because it's so toxic and it's so harmful to the environment and human beings. A century ago, it was just an obnoxious industrial byproduct that everybody was trying to figure out ways to get rid of. One of the ways that they did that was by paving roads. But then a British chemist figured out that the coal tar could be used to derive fabric dye. And if fabric dye, why not food? Food manufacturers began using it to cover up the discoloration of low-quality foods that they wanted to pass off on unsuspecting customers. They didn't know back then that this yellow dye, tartrazine, causes tumors, asthma, developmental delays, neurological damage, ADD, ADHD, hormone disruption, gene damage, anxiety, depression, intestinal injuries. Well, we know it now. We've known.
So this is crazy. When I saw him do this, I'm thinking of the executives at General Mills and all these places, Kellogg's, who are just like, oh no. I can almost see it's like the witch, when the house lands melting on her in The Wizard of Oz and she's melting, right? And I think that that's what's happening. I'd never even heard of tartrazine before, but we all know that there are yellow dyes in our food. This yellow dye number 4 in particular, the synthetic food coloring, which is known all over the internet, Melissa, known to cause numerous health problems. And Americans are ingesting this stuff that the FDA has allowed and approved and pushed in commercials and all these other things, like we all read about, or breakfast cereals that are, that have been fortified. That's what they call it, fortified. Well, they don't tell you they strip all the nutrients out of it. And then they put all these synthetic things back in our food, and we wonder why we're overweight, why we're depressed, why our gut is all screwed up. And a lot of this stuff, if we can just get to the root problems, if we can stop talking about symptoms and get to the root, which is really a large part of what I think RFK Jr. wants to do, and not just put a Band-Aid on things, but start correcting them from the inside out, I think that's where we start to really see significant change.
Yeah, it's really this concept of a wellness model instead of sick care. We're looking for well care. And it starts with what goes in our bodies. And it can go in our bodies via air fresheners. We can breathe it, we can ingest it, we can rub it on our skin. It's all going in. So it's not only our food, but food colors, for the most part. But when you travel to Europe, so Maddie, who hasn't been able to do food colors her entire life, she and I went to England on a mission trip. She could eat so much food over there, and she was so excited. She had blue ice cream for the first time in her whole life when we were over there, because we could get it without food colors. I mean, never mind that a seagull came and literally took it off the top of her ice cream cone. Poor kid. But there was so much over there that she could eat because the EU has banned a whole bunch of these things that are still allowed in our food. This. I know. You do get angry when you start thinking about it. It's all because people are making money. Yeah. It's
anger. Greed. It's greed. So that we start, the first thing we look at our food, like how much sugar are we ingesting? Sugar is in literally everything. Sugar is in ketchup. It's literally in everything. Then you got to start looking at food colors, and then you got to look at the liquid sugars that are in things like the juice that you drink, the things that you think are healthy because the labels lie to you and tell you that they are healthy. But
they can say 100% juice. I'm sorry I'm interrupting you. They'll use natural flavors. That natural flavor can be fruit sugar.
Yeah.
So it makes your apple juice even sweeter than it was to begin with.
Horrible. And instead, we should be eating what Dr. Mark Sherwood's always telling everybody, go to the outside perimeter. The farther in you get in the grocery store, guaranteed the more unhealthy things become. But there's another thing that I want to touch on that I have really been paying closer attention to as I'm getting older, and I wish I'd known about this when my daughters were young, is these endocrine disruptors, the things that we're not thinking about, like the Bounce dryer sheets that you're putting in your dryer, and which is plastic. People don't realize what you're coating your clothes with. There's a reason why they don't stick to each other, right?
And then you're absorbing those chemicals 24 hours a day. Well, and they're on your sheets and your clothes, which makes up 24 hours a day of what's on your body.
Yeah. And we're seeing a massive rise now, aren't we, in breast cancer?
Yep. Yeah, like I believe, don't quote me on this, I think I heard a statistic recently, it was 1 in 4 women. And they did a study recently that phthalates, which are in a whole bunch of female beauty products, that those stay in your body for something like 30 to 60 days. That's just from one use. And that's a cancer-causing ingredient. And if we're using it literally every single day, our body's never, ever, ever. And that's just one of the 400 chemicals that we encounter every day in a typical female beauty routine. It really is remarkable.
Yeah, it really is. You talked about something that you called greenwashing. What do you mean by that term?
So there are a lot of companies that realize, oh, hey, these people want organic products. We better make them. So General Mills, for example, decided we better make something that looks like an organic product because we want to have, we want to make money. We want to get in on this pot also. So they start doing that, and what they do is it's the major food companies, but they're really not the super clean stuff. So it may be that it's the, I'm drawing a blank, the Myers company. You can go, or like I even noticed recently, I think Dawn has an unscented something or other. So they take these typical products that we see at Walmart, they make it look like it's a healthy organic product, but it really has a whole lot. It may still be 90% of the unhealthy chemicals. So you really want to try and get away from those companies and get ones that truly, where the company is committed at the heart of their company and their vision and their mission to really help people be healthy, not just find a product to sell and make money, because that's where you're going to find the people who are really committed to it. It's like we had Naked Juice, then Naked Juice got bought by Pepsi.
Right.
Well, then they had this huge lawsuit that they were lying to people about what was in the Naked Juice. It wasn't Naked Juice anymore. So so you just want to make sure that the company you're buying from is legitimately a healthy, clean product, not just one that's owned by the nasty product right next door and they just kind of cleared your labeling to make it look a little bit better. So yeah, we call that greenwashing.
Yeah, I think, and we see it everywhere. And I think for most people, and I would put myself in this category, I'm ridiculously busy. I live a very busy life. I feel like my day is ordered from the minute I wake up in the morning to, late at night till the last kid leaves my bedroom. And it's very overwhelming. And I know that I'm not alone in this. When people start, you kind of want to just throw your hands up in the air and go, you know what? Forget it. Like one of the first things you did, Liz, when you started working here, was you changed out the soap in the bathroom. And what kind of soap is it?
It's Castile. It's Dr. Bronner's Castile soap, and I added an essential oil to it.
Yeah, and it's fabulous. And it's like my favorite thing. And I ended up I thought that's a little switch that I can make. So I took all the soaps in our house and I switched it out to Castile soap and put a little bit of essential oils in it, because that's the kind of thing that's going onto your body. And you're washing your hands with it. It's absorbed into your skin. But what are some ways that people who are listening can start to make small but incremental changes? Because I don't want people to feel overwhelmed. It's like exercise, the same thing, right? If you don't have an exercise routine, do 10 minutes of something, right?
Yeah.
Just start small. So how are some ways that we can get rid of the bad products that are in our house and switch them out in incremental steps?
Yeah, I would say start with the things that you're exposed to the most. So one of the best ways you can do it is, Young Living has their Thieves Cleaner. That can replace almost every single cleaning product in your home.
Your window cleaners. I clean all my windows with it now. Yeah.
Yeah, so everything, you can get rid of your toilet bowl cleaner, the outside of the toilet cleaner, and your wipes, and your shower cleaner, and your window cleaner. And so then you just have one cleaning bottle that you carry all over the house. That's one really easy thing to do. And then you're getting rid of all those toxic products that you're breathing in. The other one that I would say is critical is to switch your laundry detergent, because like we said, we're sleeping on our sheets and then we're wearing those clothes 24 hours a day. And all of those chemicals are soaking into our body. So the more you can, the quicker you can switch that. So then that's a matter of changing one product. You're not changing, your hair lotion, your conditioner, there's 14 different beauty products. This is just one product and that one product changes something for every single person in your home. The other thing I would say is ditch your candles and your air fresheners and turn on a diffuser. You're generally, the mom is the one responsible for what's coming into the house, right? For the most part. Now, every now and then, yes, we have teenagers who have opinions about what they want in their house. And I'm not saying hide everything from them or make it a huge battle, but generally, the mom can turn on that diffuser on your kitchen counter or on your living room, coffee table, end table, whatever, and you can get, your kids are not the ones out there buying fancy candles. That's going to be the mom because she wants her house to smell like fall. So use some essential oils instead, and then you're breathing healthy things and your house smells great, and you're literally, scientifically, cleaning your air at the same time. So I would just say do one step at a time. Pick one thing to do this month. Pick another thing to do next month, and that way it's not so overwhelming. And then, you don't want to quit. If you get overwhelmed, and not everybody can throw all their products out all of a sudden, and just tomorrow, go buy all this stuff. But if you're just doing one thing at a time, it's not as financially overwhelming and it's not mentally as overwhelming.
Yeah, I think it's true. Talk to me a little bit about fabric softener. So one of the things that I have loved since I was probably in junior highs, I love Downy. I love the smell of it. It makes me happy. And then some rude, awful woman told me how bad it was for me, and I was like, "Wait, you're wrecking this for me." Talk to us about why fabric softener is so not good for you.
So it literally is a coating on the threads of your fabrics, and the only reason it's there is to help reduce static. So it's moisture that is, coating our fabric so that it's less staticky. And I get that people like it. I mean, my kids could tell my mom was around because she drove her car up and we could smell the Downy. So I grew up in a Downy household. And then for a while I did go unscented Downy so I could still feel it. And then I realized that was before I actually learned all of this. I just didn't like the scent. But then we got rid of that part. So the one step of unscented, it might be a little bit better for you, but it's still all the chemicals that are coating your sheets and your clothes, and your skin is the largest organ that is soaking stuff in. So what you can do, there are a lot of different ways. You can add a cup of white vinegar. That helps soften your water, and that will help. That helps soften your water, so then you don't have as much static or things don't feel crunchy. Some people will use a thieves wipe, or they'll use a baby wipe that they put in the dryer with a little bit of essential oil on it to work as a dryer softener sheet. But the bottom line is that once we get, like this switch, it does feel a little bit different. I mean, I'll be honest, towels are a little bit crunchier, but I'll say they actually absorb better because they're not covered in this chemical that keeps them from absorbing water. So in the long run, it takes a little bit of time to get used to, and I can appreciate that there's a difference. But I mean, honestly, sweet tea is way better than unsweet tea, right? Well, okay, I get that. I really like ice cream better than I like an apple. But when you recognize there's a purpose for the switch that you're making, well, then you can choose to get over it. I mean, there is a little difference. And but you just have to decide how much do you really want to do it. One really cool thing with the stuff that we're putting on our skin to think about is that when my daughter was born, she had all of the eggs in her body that she's going to have for the rest of her life. So a mom who is growing a daughter in her womb is literally growing her grandchildren in her womb. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's
so
amazing.
That pregnant 25-year-old mom is literally carrying a third well, technically from her it would be 2 generations. But when you think about that, and that fabric softener that we're so married to at our house is literally affecting our grandchildren.
Yeah.
Because that egg is what is going to turn into that grandchildren. I mean, that really, it's remarkable when you think about that and you think, okay, I can do without fabric softener. I can make this work. And without Yankee candles. And it can work. We just have to decide that it matters enough to do it. Like choosing to memorize scripture and walk and get our head in the word and all of that. It's a generational impact.
The Benham brothers, we were talking about something sort of similar because they were helping, they were part of the moderators panel. It's just me and David and Jason Benham. I'll tell you what, those guys are more fun than a clown on fire. And anyways, we were talking about just everything you could possibly imagine during the break. And at one point we got to talking about habits. And they call them stackable habits. Like once you make one small incremental change, it's easier to make another change on top of it. Start looking around your house or your life or whatever it is, and start saying, "Hey, this is where do I want to be? A year from now, 2 years from now, 5 years from now. Do I want to feel healthy, or do I want to be, just sort of maintaining?" And they said they'd made a decision a long time ago that they're going to be healthy. And so, boy, I'll tell you what, when the guys brought a whole bunch of junk food back into the green room, nobody ate it. because we were just like, we don't want a Snicker bar and bring us something, good to eat, and because you recognize that these small little things, these decisions that you're making are having a long-term impact over time. I want to talk for the next few minutes here just about the switch that you and I made to essential oils. It really has changed my family for the better. Almost all of my kids now are on, they use essential oils all the time for everything, which by the way, I can tell you, I got that little owie fixed right on my nose with lavender. It took me 6 weeks to do that. Whatever.
Excellent.
But we finally got it nailed down. But you started using essential oils before I did and started talking to me about some of the amazing results that you began to see. What are some of the changes that you noticed through adding essential oils to your routine?
So I started using them to fix things, where I had tried Accutane because my skin was so broken out. That was when we got married. So instead of a skin cream, I tried an essential oil. Tea tree, that was my first thing. My face cleared up for the first time literally since 5th grade. And I was an adult with at least an 8-year-old child. So from 35 years old, my face cleared up for the first time. And that was tea tree oil. And boy, was I sold on it. Mm-hmm. And then when I had kids and we had somebody who was having lots of UTIs, a urinary tract infection, antibiotics did not sit well with that one. They were all pink, and that did not work very well. She could swallow pills at 2.5, so I got oregano capsules. And I asked my pediatrician, I was like, okay, I want to try oregano capsules. Are you okay with this? Which he didn't have to be okay with it, but I wanted him on my team.
Yes.
And I didn't want him to call CPS for me not treating my child. And he said, sure. He said, I'm going to give you 3 days. Let's see how it goes and make sure, which I was good with that. I was like, let's see it, because I don't want my kid in pain, right? Let's see if this fixes it. So she took oregano pills. Sure enough, we went back and tested at the doctor 3 days later, 100% clear. And he's like, I'm sold. We're leaving the amoxicillin, right? There's no need for it then. So that was in a capsule. That was different. And then I'm not saying right off the bat, take your brand new 2.5-year-old and start doing oregano capsules. These were ones that were made to be ingested. I mean, now I might do that 25 years later, but that wouldn't have been my first move as a young mom. We had ringworm, and we tried the cream for 6 weeks. The cream didn't, 3 different creams from the doctor didn't work. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to try something different. Why it took me 6 weeks, I'm not quite sure. So I put tea tree in the Castile soap and in a clean lotion. And we did morning and evening showers with the Castile soap in the shower and then lotion head to toe in the evening. 3 days cleared up after 6 weeks of crying and scratching and bleeding and doctor's visits and crazy stuff. We've had, of course, nausea. I mean, Digize is my absolute favorite thing for nausea.
And
I'm like, oh my gosh.
I think that's my favorite. I never leave home without it. Yeah.
No, me neither. I always have it in my purse. Warts. We've been able to get rid of warts in our house with lemon and oregano, and it's, I mean, you're killing the wart, so that still hurts, because that's what happens when you kill warts and they fall off. We've had major hormone progress, and I like to, if a doctor tells me, hey, your thyroid is low or your progesterone is low, I'd like you to try this. I'm like, oh no, I'm going to try my Young Living thing first, but now I have blood work, so I'll be back in 6 months. And I had thyroid and progesterone numbers change drastically with the Young Living. I was using, at that point, just Endoflex, an essential oil that's really great for the endocrine system. My thyroid was smack dab in the healthy center after using it for 6 months from being out of the range at the bottom.
Now, when you say you used it for 6 months, how did you use it?
Okay, so Endoflex in particular, I have a bottle like this that has a roller top. This is not Endoflex, and I just rub it right here on my thyroid every day. Mm-hmm. And it actually smells, everybody, they're like, I want to go hug you because you smell so good.
Endoflex smells really good.
That's actually kind of probably my signature smell at this point. And then like progesterone cream. So using it, I'm generally meaning topically, unless I'm saying I put it in a capsule. I had mastitis that I was very sick, and I did capsules instead of the antibiotic. My doctor was like, sure, let's give it a try. That's sicker than I've ever been in my whole life. And because it was non-lactating mastitis, and I didn't know that when you haven't nursed for 15 years, you don't think mastitis is why you feel so bad.
Right.
And then it takes a little bit, and then all of a sudden it kicks in and you realize. So I actually ingested thyme, oregano, thieves, like 40, 50 drops a day, and knocked it out. And my doctor was great with it. He's like, he said, you don't need to take the antibiotic. I'm okay. I'm watching you get better.
Yeah.
And it was great. And I love that because I believe that it's going to help me. Burns, peppermint and lavender, we've used so many times. Mm-hmm. When we've had open wounds where Robert comes in the door and he's cut his forehead and he's literally dripping blood down his face, we dump helichrysum right on that and it stops the bleeding immediately. We always keep helichrysum in our house because Robert is quite prone to bleeding that need stitches.
Accidents.
Energy. If you're struggling to wake up in the morning, put a drop of peppermint right on the roof of your mouth. Just smell the peppermint bottle. Just recently, I have seen juniper and cypress help like crazy with bladder spasms or irritation. If you have little kids who are still wetting the bed, somebody asked about that recently on the podcast.
Yeah,
juniper and cypress, just right, or one or the other. You don't have to have both. Rubbed right on the bladder at night and in the morning. It makes a really big difference with bedwetting. And sometimes, like you said, they just need to outgrow it. But if there's an inner cause, like a bladder spasm or irritation from maybe drinking too much apple juice or something like that, then that can be helpful. Cedarwood and vetiver we have seen be so helpful for sleeping. When you lay in bed and you just feel kind of crawly, or if I have had too much sugar or too much chocolate, sometimes I will go to bed and I lay down and that's when I feel all crawly. Vetiver and cedarwood are so good for that. I mean, it's just crazy how fast it helps. Frankincense is so good for clear skin, for emotions. I'm laughing because yesterday I walked in my office and one of the other gals who works here walks in. She's like, how are you today? I was like, well, I kind of feel like I want to hurt somebody, so I think I need to open an oil bottle. I was irritated. I was driving here thinking, why am I so irritated today? So I came in, I got my lemongrass, I got my lavender, I got my diffuser started. Sure enough, a couple minutes later, I'm feeling so much better because we breathe them in. It literally changes the brain chemicals.
Yeah.
Like they've tested it. It's crazy. Yes, it works.
Yeah, it works. And I think once people realize, oh, hey, there's a different way. I mean, think about all of the people that are on chronically now on medicine, right? They're on pharmaceuticals. It makes me angry. Like how much we've been lied to by the pharmaceutical industry. And that's not me saying that every pharmaceutical is wrong or bad. I understand that there are really very, very good ones. I have shared my story with, coming out of a very abusive environment and dealing with very, very severe PTSD. And I'll tell you, I mean, when I was 19 years old and they first said, you've got a chronic disorder, a panic disorder, the first thing they did was say, here's Prozac. We're going to put you on this. We're going to put you on Xanax. We're going to try Wellbutrin. You're going to try. I mean, I have tried every Lexapro, you name it. I have been on it. And I reached a point in my life where I realized, hey, this isn't good for me. And the reason that happened was because I was speaking at an event. I mean, this is, I don't know, it's been how many years ago now, Melissa? It's been a long, long time. I was on the East Coast, and I forgot to take the medicine with me. And I didn't think it would be that big of a deal because I only took like a 0.25 milligram tablet, so hardly any at all. And I started having seizures. And it really scared me. It scared me so bad, and I flew home. I was feeling so defeated. Here I am, whatever, in my 40s at that point. I thought, I'm never going to be able to get over this. And the doctor that I was seeing said, you know what, this isn't actually good for you long term. And whoever said this was the thing you should do for the rest of your life didn't understand the science behind it. And so put me back on the medicine so I could wean myself off.
Right.
And at the same time, I started using frankincense. I started really upping my the emotional support oils and all the things that I had been told for years would help with anxiety, but I was too afraid to try it. Yeah. If people live with crippling anxiety, they know exactly what I'm talking about. Like, you do not want to be off that medicine because
and it's no small thing.
Small thing.
Yeah, I think it matters that we appreciate that and acknowledge that we recognize it's not an easy switch we're suggesting. And there's no shame in needing to take a while to get off it or any of those things. So sorry.
And I want people to know it's worth taking your time, taking the time to do it, and realizing this might take a while. I don't think I have taken an antidepressant or a panic anxiety medicine now it's coming on 9 years or something crazy like that. It's been a long time. And once people realize you can get free from this stuff, it's so liberating. It is just so liberating. And I look back to my 19-year-old self and just sitting, scared and frustrated in a paper nightgown in a sterile doctor's office and basically having them say, this is the rest of your life. Yeah. And it just simply isn't true. It doesn't have to be that way. And I really want people to hear that.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be that way. I think that's the important thing. It can be that way. Mm-hmm. People they can choose that road, but it doesn't have to be. And I think, when we're talking about SSRIs, and in that clip we heard how many young people are on SSRIs. Well, SSRIs really screw up your hormones. Yep. And SSRIs don't give you a good life. There's a time and a place for them. They may pull you out of an acute situation, but what happens is they make your emotions flat. They don't actually make you happy. Yeah. They just take away the negative situation not the situation you're in, but the emotions. So they make you in just this emotionally
you're right, it flatlines you.
Yeah. And that's not really a fulfilling, and who wants to get out of bed for just feeling emotionally flat for 10 years? No. So there can be a better way. But so I think it does take a while. It can take a while. I think it's good to take a while. Mm-hmm. And
you didn't get into it overnight.
Yes.
And you're not going to get away from it overnight either. Yep, but I want people to know, and I know you do too, that it is possible. Mm-hmm. And it is so good to say, hey, I'm actually working now with things that my body can work with, that God designed, that are in nature, that He put there for our healing and for our good. I want to really just quickly touch on some other things that have been really helpful for us. One of the things that we've put into practice in our house is finding supplements that are better than the ones that you get at Walmart. And really taking care to understand the supplement market. There are a lot of things out there right now, and I'd say this is even true of essential oils. Just you don't want to just send somebody down to the grocery store and say just buy whatever essential oil you see, because they're not all created equal. Sure. Supplements are the same way, unfortunately. Like if you were to go down to, there's one, I can't remember the name of it, but there's a supplement company that's just massive, and I saw a commercial for them the other day on the Roku, and so I went down, when I was at the store, I was like, oh, hey, I meant to look at the back of that bottle. Oh my goodness. The stuff that they put in those things, it's astonishing to me. Hopefully RFK is going to address that too. But you've gotten me into on a more of a regular pattern of having really good supplements, and it's made a big difference. Young Living has theirs infused with essential oils, and at first I was like, that's dumb. Why are we infusing our supplements with essential oils? But studies show that they make them more absorbable, that that these are naturally sourced products. And I wanted to just give my audience a little bit of insight as to why I think this is so important. When you introduce those to your family, and then subsequently to me, and then to my family, what was the main impetus behind switching?
Well, for us, I've always been a little bit of a supplement snob. Of course, having a corn allergy kind of moves you in that direction. But again, like I said at the beginning, it made me learn what mattered. So instead of taking maybe 3 of some cheap supplement I'm getting at the store, when I may only have to take I'm taking a smaller amount because it's more effective. That's one thing that I've noticed. My body can use everything that's actually going in my body. So per pill, it might seem like it's more expensive, but per effective dose, I would say, it can actually cost less in the long run. The other thing is, it matters to me what I'm putting in my body.
Yeah.
It matters that I'm not putting in a whole bunch of junk fillers, that I trust the company, just like I want to know where my broccoli comes from and that it's not laden with chemicals. I want to know about the supplement and where it comes from. So I have seen with Ningxia in particular, Ningxia is a super juice drink. It's really high in antioxidants. It's something like 12 different vegetables that are in that, vegetables and fruits, pomegranate, lots of other things. And they've done some third-party studies on it, which I love that Young Living is adding some third-party studies now. I think it adds credibility to the brand, and to some of my favorite products. I'm like, okay, I could tell you my story. Now we have a third-party study, which I don't think we always need that, but I do like having it. I've seen some thyroid numbers help in a whole lot of people. Cortistop has helped lower cortisol, and these are my family testimonies. I think it's important to know that these things that I'm telling you are not just random stories that I read on the internet. These are literally every testimony I've given you so far has come out of my own house. So, and this list could be hundreds of testimonies, literally probably tens of thousands of testimonies.
Well, there's no question. Cortisol in particular, I have, because of the way I live my life, you could say I manufacture my own cortisol for the way that I live my life. But I've noticed that from time to time, if it feels like the pressure is just too much and I can feel it, I will take Cortistop for a certain amount of time, and not necessarily take it for all the time, but take it for seasons.
Well, you're not supposed to take that one all the time. Yeah, it's supposed to be on and off.
It's amazing how much it helps. It's shocking even.
Yeah, and there are things like that it's easy to miss, but your face can feel kind of puffy. You can be carrying around extra, even just bloatedness. That can be high cortisol. We've talked about this before on the podcast. You want high cortisol when you're being chased by a tiger.
Right.
You don't want high cortisol when you wake up at 7 in the morning because you hear the garbage truck. Or by what?
Or by a Democrat, or by a screaming leftist, whatever.
So where our body's supposed to have an amount of cortisol as we go through the day, but it just helps regulate it. Sulfurzyme has helped a lot in our house, has helped specifically with just joint aches and pains. My ankles don't hurt when I get up in the morning. And I'll say, sulfurzyme is not the same as sulfa drug family. A lot of people, it's helpful to know that distinction. Sulfurzyme is a mineral that is in our body, and we're putting in our body on a regular basis. So sulfurzyme is just more of it. It helps carry water to all of our cells. It can be helpful with lung infections and things like that. Probiotics, everybody's talking about probiotics these days. You can help heal your gut. They have a kiddos probiotic that we really love both of these in our house. And if you just feel, kind of blah or bloated or indigestion or, a fair amount of other issues, digestive enzymes and probiotics make a really big difference in the food that you're absorbing. And it's just better when you can feel better. And I think it's important, too, to say that, when you start a supplement, generally we don't want to start a supplement thinking that we're going to be on it the rest of your life.
Right.
You want to help correct what got you to there. And sometimes a supplement, it's good to do it for a month, take a month off, do it, or alternate a supplement. It's the goal is not to just decide that, now I have 9 supplements, now I'm going to take these the rest of my life. That's not really what we're looking for either. Mm-hmm. They can just help your body rebalance as you learn more about yourself. So I think it's important to look at that also, that it can be a tool And then oils, I think, are easy. They're an easy button than supplements even. Have what you need at your house. That's the bottom line. If you don't have it, you're going to go to the store and grab Dimetap and Pepto and Sudafed. So you have to go ahead and order it, because you're going to be stuffy at some point. You're going to have nausea at some point. So go ahead and get your oils so that you have them ahead of time.
True.
I think that's
and you
important.
can make it. You can get go into your bathroom and look in your medicine cabinet. There's so many things you could replace right away. Decongestant, the things that we use to for the little minor burns and the scrapes and those kinds of things. The nausea meds. We said Digize. I'm telling you, that's my husband's favorite oil. He doesn't go anywhere without it. Pain relievers, all those kinds of things. Acne, you talked about that at the top of the show. But I think there's so many things that these things which God gave us are useful for. The science behind them is very robust. When people say, "Oh, that's just a whatever," this is actually backed up by very, very robust science, and I think we're going to hear more about it. I'm hopeful. We're going to hear more about how good they are in the days to come. I want to encourage people, because there's some really awesome stuff. This is the time of year when Young Living especially, and you and I have been doing Young Living now for a long, long, long time, when they have some really great sales. This is a great time to get involved and get what you need ahead of time. Right now, their entire site, isn't it? It's 30% off, right?
Almost the entire site, yeah.
Yeah, almost the entire site.
For orders over 100 PV, which basically means 100 product value dollars, is almost all 30% off. And we had actually talked about doing this podcast before we knew that this Black Friday sale was coming. So I'm excited that this worked out to tell everybody about it. So just so you know, too, if you are a new first time ever customer with Young Living, use the coupon code, capital letters, SHAREYL, and that's an additional 10% off for first-time members. Even if you have more questions about that, if you want to make sure that Heidi and I can be the ones who are helping take care of you, we have tons of Facebook groups, we have leaders who are sending weekly texts so you can get information. We'll make sure you know what to do with these oils when you get them. Then go to thebusymom.com/oils, and that has a link. And if you click that link, then that makes sure you get on our team. If you have trouble with any of that, just send us a message at info@heidistjohn.com and we can answer your questions. We cannot do diagnosing and treating. So just FYI, don't email us about that.
They already know that. I already tell them. I'm not a doctor. I just play one on my podcast.
Right. So thebusymom.com/oils, and I'm going to make sure, I'll make sure we've got some Black Friday stuff there. So we want to make sure that you know what to do with it. It doesn't do any good to have anybody, just sitting there on the shelf. So.
Yep. I wish we would do it more often, because it's really your wheelhouse, and you and I both. I mean, we're going to start doing some really fun education nights too. So if you guys are in the Portland, Vancouver metropolitan area, reach out to us. You can do that by just going to info@heidistjohn.com, and we'll send you guys information about those. But sometimes, Melissa, I'll do a podcast and I'll talk about the essential oils, and especially for me, if I'm talking about anxiety and how really I felt like it was part of how the Lord healed my heart and really helped me through years and years of recovery from trauma. And people will say, "Oh, I don't know, that seems a little bit sketchy. That seems very, very new agey," and what is your answer when we get emails like that?
Yeah, I think that there's a lot on the internet. There are a lot of people in the New Age movement who do use essential oils, but they also eat broccoli, right? We eat broccoli too. So I think it's important these oils literally are like, you cook the plant, you cook the mint leaves, you distill the water through them, and that's what the oil is at the top. I think it's important that people realize that the oils themselves, there's no spiritual quality in these oils, and we're not ascribing spiritual quality to these oils.
Absolutely not.
So when you smell a bouquet of flowers, or you smell the shrub, a juniper shrub, those things smell good because of the essential oils. So, when we go out and we feel better after taking a walk in nature, literally because we're surrounded by the essence of those plants. Well, those are essential oils, right? That's the same root cause. So we remember that the Lord is the hero of all of our stories, right? God has given us tools to help take care of our families, just like He's taught us how to eat healthy food with our families and provide that. So I think it's important that we recognize that there are some people who might be using these and also living and practicing Middle Eastern or New Age practices. That doesn't mean all of us are, and that doesn't mean you have to do that. We're going to take care of our business and the people that we're taking care of in a way that honors the Lord. We're thankful for the tools that we have, and the Lord is the hero of all of our healing stories. And we're surrounded by a ton of people who feel that way.
Yeah.
So it's so sad to me when people throw the baby out with the bathwater. It would be similar to we're never ever going to get on the internet because somebody used it and they had a porn addiction. Well, that doesn't mean we do.
Yeah.
So I think it's all tools can be used for good or bad, and this is such a good tool. It makes me sad when people miss it.
Yeah. Well, hopefully people, if you're interested, you guys check it out, thebusymom.com/oils. And like you heard me say a few minutes ago, they've got an awesome sale going on right now. So check it out. We'll put some graphics up there and places where you guys can reach out to us. Subscribe to to my newsletter if you haven't already done it. There's so many great things going on. We've got really good things coming up at Faith That Speaks. There are several retreats we're working on for next year. So we've got lots and lots of really awesome things to just encourage you along the way in your journey, body, soul, mind, and spirit. So, Melissa, thanks for coming on the show with me today. It's really fun.
It was fun. And we should add, the sale goes through Saturday. It's Thursday, November 21st through Saturday, November 23rd, but the stuff's always there and the link will be the same no matter what. So
awesome. So the sale's over when?
Saturday, November 23rd.
All right, that's the date you guys want to hear. Saturday, November 23rd. So
and I'll put that info on the website too. So
very cool. So if you're hearing this before then, hop on over. If it's already after, that's okay. You can still head over there. There's always great sales happening, just not all the Black Friday sales. So, all right, Lisa, thank you for coming on the show. It's been fun having you. For more information, you guys can go to thebusymom.com/oils. You guys, listen, God would have you be healthy. We are so excited about this kind of change in the atmosphere. And I think honoring your body with what you put into, with the things that we listen, right? Whatever we're allowing ourselves to listen to, the things that we watch on television, it all is part of living a life that honors the Lord. And when you walk inside the boundary that God gives you, the blessings are abundant. Thank you guys so much for listening today. And I will see you back here again at the intersection of faith and culture.